What's going on YouTube? It's Giga here, and today I'm bringing you something a little bit different. I'm really sorry that I haven't been super active lately. I just have been very busy these past couple weekends, especially with regionals coming up. In particular, this past weekend was the Vancouver regional where I managed to go 6-3, and it was super awesome. I definitely want to talk about the team a little bit more. I don't necessarily know if I can do a rental. I just know that I have a couple friends that are potentially using a variation or something similar to the team that I use for some upcoming tournaments. So want to kind of keep that under wraps for now. But more importantly, I did end up on stream for round 7, and I did want to talk a little bit kind of about the match itself and like how it went and my sort of overall thoughts on it. And so I am playing Alberto Lara here. And before we get into it, just quickly showing the teams here. So we'll talk about mine first, right? So mine is, we're going to zoom in a little bit here. It's pretty standard. It is just a standard Palafin balance team, right? It is Choice Specs Fluttermane with Power Gem, Palafin, right? We have that Mystic Water with Snarl. I mean, not Snarl, with Haze, Arcanine with the safety goggles. Going for Snarl. I used to have Extreme Speed, but changed it pretty last minute, and that's a really big change. And we can actually talk about the impact of that later. We have Iron Hands with the Assault Vest. We do have Heavy Slam for Fluttermanes. I know a lot of them have Volt Switch instead, but I thought that Heavy Slam was more important. Amoonguss, we do have Protect. I know a lot of them have dropped it. And then finally, we do have that Roaring Moon with the Booster Energy. Important thing to note is that mine is a speed boosting Roaring Moon instead of an attack boosting one. And that's just because I went with a slightly more bulky Fluttermane. And just to make up for that lack of speed, because I took some away from there, I wanted to have sort of that speed control mode there. And now hopping over to Alberto's team, right, it is kind of similar to what he used at OCIC. We do have the attack boosting Roaring Moon. I was able to see that from the team sheet, right? If you see Dragon Dance, there's not really a reason to be speed boosting. You usually are going for the extra attack there. There's Volcarona. Important note is it's Flamethrower and Giga Drain as its only attacking moves, which means it doesn't really have good damage into Arcanine. We have Scarf Garchomp with Earthquake, Dragonclaw, Rock Slide, and Stopping Tantrum. Corviknight with the Citrus Berry, Terra Fire. We do have Klefki, sort of the star of the show, right, with those screens. And finally, we have Palafin, and this is a Lumberry Palafin, which I think is an interesting call, right? A lot of times when you see the Palafins, you sort of expect them to be, what's it called? Mystic Water like mine, but Alberto opting for a Lumberry here. So it's a really interesting match. I'm really excited to hop into it. I think I'm going to try and talk through each sort of turn by turn, and hopefully we can get a lot out of it. So let's just hop right into things.
Yeah, I mean, the Tailwind users on both teams, right? For Alberto, the Tailwind is on Corviknight, whereas it is on Nishan's Roaring Moon. However, the leads here from this trainer, Klefki and Corviknight, I could have put a lot of money on that one.
So, oh god, can I? All right, we're going to pause. I hope it's not going to be too horrible to like pause and play. So leads, I thought Arcanine and Iron Hands was really my best bet here. I think it just offered a lot of immediate pressure onto things and could kind of punish things. And I really expected screens in the lead. And so my thought process is, hey, let's go for something right with Arcanine or our Iron Hands that can do a lot of damage to Klefki. We also do have things like Fake Out to set up. And Alberto here, right, is leading with Corviknight and the Klefki. So this is pretty good for me, right? Like neither of these are super threatening onto my Pokemon. And so we can kind of go through the first turn. Oh, it is loading. I hope that...
Yeah, one of my Corviknight's cool tricks. We did see it the last time that Corviknight was in the stream. For players who did watch that match, by the way, Len, I was actually talking to him yesterday about how I thought if players played against these two consecutively, they might be tricked by it because they're very different teams, even though similar Pokemon.
Yeah, Klefki's going to get faked out this turn, though, unable to move. Arcanine going for a Will-O-Wisp right out of the gate, just trying to slow down this Corviknight. Corviknight loves to go for things like Body Press, and so if you can stop that and prevent Roost from fully healing, you're in a great spot.
Oh, it is just going to keep... We're going to pause it. I think I'm still on times 2 speed. Yeah, I'm going to slow that down to normal. So just talking about this first turn here, right? I think I made a misplay. I should not have gone for a Fake Out into the Klefki. I should have gone for it into the Corviknight. As we saw, the Corviknight doesn't have Protect. And so what I wanted to do here is just trying to get some immediate pressure with Will-O-Wisp. I think it's fine if I get the turn wrong, right? If they go for a Terrafire, because of the fact that I have Fluttermane in the back. Right, so I'm saying, hey, if you Terrafire, you're in a position where I can hit you with Power Gem. But if you stay in, you're going to get burned. And so getting a burn on this Corviknight, I think is really important. But I do think, yeah, going for the Fake Out onto the Corviknight would have been better, right? Because that means you're setting up screens one turn earlier. And the sooner you set up screens, the sooner they go away. My plan right now, right, is just to kind of sit on the field and create a scenario where we can slowly whittle away at things. And so that was kind of the plan. So burn. It also would have given my Arcanine some more health. Not a big deal, but it is what it is.
Defensive Pokemon out in the field. This Corviknight does know Roost and is not afraid to use it, as we have seen in the past. So, the burn gonna slowly whittle away the health.
Yeah, we're just gonna like watch some of it.
Right now, Klefki can move. It can start
We're gonna see the reflect.
in front of these two big physical attackers. If it wants to click light screen later on, it has that opportunity. Flare Blitz from the Arcanine into the Klefki.
Just get some damage.
Really, really nice, huh? And it just shows how much Alberto loves to use them. And that is, it just helps to start setup. And Alberto is truly a player that I think loves to click these tech moves. Tailwind from the Corviknight.
So here's my thought process, right? My thought process is neither of these Pokemon are threatening me. I want to stay on the field as long as possible. I also want to chip away. Now that I've seen a light screen, my objective is to waste your light screen, right? Like, what are you really getting out of it with Klefki? At this point, Klefki can maybe go for a Thunder Wave, which has to be weary of because I have Terra Dark on my Arcanine. Or it's going to go for Dazzling Gleam, which isn't going to do much. So I'm saying, hey, I'm going to just get some chip on you with the idea that when Tailwind expires, right, I want to be in a really advantageous position, make it so your screens are going to be running low. So this is totally fine, right? I'm not worried about this Tailwind in the slightest. So yeah, just getting some chip there. And that's like kind of what's the most important, right? Saying, hey, you're not going to really get anything from this Tailwind. So now we're trying to stall out the Tailwind a little bit. So just going for a Protect here, right? And making it so, hey, you're not really going to get much out of this. I do choose to KO the Klefki here just because I am afraid of Thunder Waving my whole team, right? And I'm sure you're trying to prioritize getting up that light screen over getting a T-Wave on my Arcanine. So let's just try and get rid of it, create a scenario where we can get some... Oh, no. Okay, never mind. I go for some damage here. Just trying to deal with that Corviknight. It's going to get the Citrus Berry. I'm not worried about the Corviknight at all here. So it's totally fine that it's staying on the field. Sorry, I'm just making sure the audio is good. Yeah. So now we're going to see Dazzling Gleam, right? We're just trying to play the slow game. Going for the Roost is totally fine here. Like I said, I'm not worried about this Corviknight. I have ways of dealing with it in the end game. And the Dazzling Gleam going to come out here, doing a bit of chip, right? We're just slowly trading damage. And I don't think any of these turns have a lot to talk about, right? I'm just creating a scenario where I can be in a good position. And so that Klefki going to go down here. And so now, right, screens are up. The Klefki does not have a way to reset them. We're going to get some good damage onto the Corviknight. It's fine that it went for, what's it called? It's fine that it went for the Roost. I'm not super worried about it. And this is where like things get a little bit interesting, right? Like this is where the game sort of pivots, right? Because now out comes Roaring Moon here. And Roaring Moon is really scary because it is attack boosting, right? And it is most likely going to be able to KO my Arcanine with a move of its choice, and I can't really do anything about that. So this is where I think Alberto starts to put on a lot more pressure here, as we are seeing that Roaring Moon really hit the field. And so we're going to pause here, or no, we don't need to pause here. And so my thought process right now is, hey, we're going to switch out. I need to preserve my Arcanine for the Intimidate. What's it called? Iron Hands can go for a close combat if you choose not to Terra. If you choose to Terra, right, I do have access to Wild Charge. I can pivot back in. And so we're just going to try and apply as much pressure as possible. And so now Alberto goes for Protect here. I think just worried about a potential something like a Will-O-Wisp, maybe going for the double up into you, afraid of like prematurely committing the Terra. But now, right, the switch into Volcarona, I can switch out. I'm going to bring out my Roaring Moon here. And my thought process is, right, Roaring Moon is going to apply a lot of pressure. It has the ability to set up Tailwind, which is something that I might need if their Tailwind expires. It should be able to take a potential hit from this Roaring Moon. And what it means, right, is if you go for the Terra Flying, I now have the ability to use my Iron Hands Wild Charge to put on pressure. So Roaring Moon comes out here. Sad my nicknames don't show up, but it is what it is. Speed. Cool.
Really interesting now that Nishant's may be moving faster once this Tailwind has ended. Protect as well from the Roaring Moon on Alberto's side. Iron Hands going for a close combat into that Protect.
So now my thought process, right, is I should be able to survive a hit from your Roaring Moon. And my biggest problem right now is the Volcarona, right? The Volcarona I think is very threatening to my team. And so what I want to do here is I want to commit the Terra. I want to just get rid of this Volcarona. I'm fine potentially taking damage and getting this turn wrong, right? Because of the fact that I have access to Arcanine, which can threaten that Roaring Moon. So, right, we're gonna have this turn kind of go, and more importantly, their Tailwind is gone, right? Like that's huge for me. I think I could have probably protected this turn. I don't think it was super necessary, but it is what it is. We're gonna see the Corviknight. So this is a really good swap here, right? You're protecting your Volcarona. You're gonna take very little chip from my what's it called? My acrobatics, especially because of the fact that I am speed boosting instead of attack boosting. So in comes the Corviknight. Very good switch here. A little bit unfortunate. Oh, sorry. A little bit unfortunate, right? That you do get what's it called? The switch in first. So I get my intimidate bounce back to me. It's not necessarily the end of the world, right? Like that's just the way it is. We are gonna see that Terra come out though. Like I said, I need to get rid of this Volcarona. It is the biggest sort of threat to me on Alberto's side of the field. I think if I can especially burn the Roaring Moon, I can deal with it. I also have the ability to cycle Intimidates, so it's not the scariest thing for me. And so we are going to see like a Terra back, which is pretty important, right? It does make it so you are weak to Iron Hands, which is really nice because Iron Hands doesn't get the Intimidate bounce back. And so that I think is putting me just in this really good position, right? So I'm fine to go for an Acrobatics, right? Going into the Corviknight, not doing a ton of damage here. And then we are going to take an Acrobatics back to us. Critically, like I do see that I survive, which is huge information. It is at neutral, which is also important to know. And so now I need to think about like what I want to do, right? So there is the option of just putting the pedal on the gas, right? I could double up into their Roaring Moon. I know that it's not going to KO, but it's not a bad option. And so what I'm thinking here is I need to basically neutralize this Roaring Moon, right? If I can neutralize both of your physical attackers, I do have Fluttermane in the back, which should be able to apply a ton of pressure, right? Like that Klefki is gone. It can Shadow Ball into Corviknight. It obviously has the ability to do big damage into the Roaring Moon. And then the Volcarona, right? I have Power Gem. So my thought process right now is I cannot get a KO onto your Roaring Moon. Let's put pressure on it. So I'm going to set up Tailwind, right? Because the Roaring Moon most likely, or not most likely, like has the chance to be faster than my Arcanine. And I don't want to make an assumption about if it's faster or slower. So I'm just going to go straight for the Tailwind. I'm going to go straight for the burn because this really neutralizes how much damage this opposing Roaring Moon can do. Even if they go for a Protect, right, your Corviknight is not KOing my Arcanine. And so this just feels like the best play to make. And so let's just kind of see how this turn plays out. Yeah, sorry, I am taking a sip of water here. Yeah, I should be moving this faster, but my computer's like a little slow. So we can just watch the whole match, right? Okay, maybe we can jump a little bit. He takes a while for this turn. I do set up the Tailwind here, right? And I do manage to get that burn onto the Roaring Moon, which is huge for me, right? Like I'm not KOing it this turn. There's no reason for me to take a KO or like to get KO'd when I can just put on pressure here. And so the Acrobatics coming out, let's see, it goes into the Arcanine. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's still doing a scary amount, right? Like if I had missed that Will-O-Wisp, I would have lost Arcanine and I probably would have lost the game. But now, right, we are in this really strong position. We have a Tailwind up, and now I'm saying, hey, let's put a little foot on the gas. And so my thought process right now, right, is I think I have the tools to win this endgame, right? I still have a full HP Fluttermane, which I haven't revealed. And I just need to get rid of this Roaring Moon. I don't even need to get rid of the Roaring Moon, right? I just need to chip it enough where I can potentially go for something like a Shadow Ball from Fluttermane to KO it, and then switch over to the other thing. But I think right now my priority is the Roaring Moon. I'm not worried about this Corviknight at all, right? Especially with Fluttermane in the back. It has Brave Bird, which is not going to do a ton of damage, and it has Body Press, right, which it obviously cannot go for. So I am saying, hey, foot on the gas. Let's attack into this Roaring Moon, get rid of it as fast as we can. And so I think that is what we're going to see here, right? We are going to see me doubling up into this Roaring Moon, just saying, hey, you are not the threat right now. or you are the threat right now. I need to just get damage on you. I'm not looking for a knockout. I'm looking for damage after crippling you significantly. And so, yeah, we're going to get the acrobatics, doing a solid chunk into it. Here comes the flare blitz, right? Putting it really, really low. That burn now going to play this huge thing as the acrobatics going to come out. Goes into the Roaring Moon, gets rid of it, which is pretty important. And I'm pretty sure Alberto goes for a roost here. I forget. Let's just see. We are going to see the Tailwind. Okay. So this is important, right? Like our Tailwinds are now staggered. Alberto's is going to be up longer than mine, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like your Roaring Moon, we know is, what's it called? Attack based. So it is going to be pretty slow. Your Core of Ignite naturally is really slow and really bulky. So it's not necessarily the end of the world for me. And so we're going to get that Tailwind up. We're going to skip through some animations, and I'm going to bring out Iron Hands. My thought process, once again, right, like Iron Hands really isn't threatened by either of these. More importantly, it gives me an ability to go for something like a Fake Out, bring out my Flutter Mane, which I think can be really huge in this endgame. So Iron Hands really just sort of playing the role of like, I don't want to switch into my Flutter Mane quite yet. I want to give it some more defensive options. And so I'm going to switch out here, bring out my Flutter Mane, just because this is sort of my way of stepping on the gas. So we're going to reveal it. Roaring Moon going for Protect here, not a big deal. I think I do Fake Out into the Roaring Moon, not the end of the world. And so we're going to see the Brave Bird, and like, look at how much damage this does. Right? Like, this is Flutter Mane. I took like nothing from that. And so now, like, I'm in a really strong position, right? Like, this Roaring Moon, as I can see, is almost dead. I don't know it has 2 turns left, but at this point, right, I don't need to worry about it. I need to target down the Core of Ignite, and then I can beat this Volcarona 1v1, especially because I have Power Gem. And so now, right, like, we're gonna put the foot on the gas. We're gonna just go for all we can into this Core of Ignite. More importantly, right, the Reflect is gone. And so this is where the Fake Out turn 1 was really bad, because, right, like, if that were the case, Light Screen would have been gone this turn instead. It doesn't end up mattering too much, right? But being able to fire off a big Shadow Ball into that Core of Ignite without fear of the extra special defensive boost would have been really nice. And so, yeah, we're just gonna skip through this a little bit. Alberto takes a long time. We both take a long time game 1. This is a really big deal. There's 2 turns of Tailwind, so this is actually really perfect for me, right? Like, I should be able to stall out pretty effectively. And so, yeah, we're going to wait for the end of this turn. Shadow Ball, right? We're still faster, which is awesome. Flutter Mane is really fast here. And we're doing a good solid chunk of damage as the Acrobatics going to come out onto the Iron Hands, doing absolutely nothing, right? Like, look at how well it takes that. The Brave Bird coming out into the Flutter Mane. And so now we get a really big knockout here with that Wild Charge, right? We should get that either way because of the fact that there is the burn. It means that we saved a little bit of recoil on our Iron Hands, but not the end of the world. And so skipping right ahead, now is a Volcarona, right? And so this is a good position for me, right? Because of the fact that this Roaring Moon is going to go down in 1 turn, so I don't really have to worry about it. And I want to switch out my Flutter Mane, given the fact that I just want to be able to use Power Gem instead of Shadow Ball. And so Alberto makes a really good play here, right? Going for the Quiver Dance, saying, hey, you're going to switch out, or you're not going to KO me this turn with Shadow Ball and Wild Charge, which I think is fair. And so I'm just going to put on pressure, right? That Roaring Moon's going to go down. Let's just get in the Arcanine to cycle that Intimidate. And so I think Arcanine goes down to the Acrobatics here, if I'm not mistaken. Here comes, yep, it is going to take me out. But more importantly, right, I'm going to be able to fire off a Wild Charge. So that Quiver Dance comes up, and let's just see how much this Wild Charge does. Yeah, we're going to just Wild Charge. It's doing a lot of damage, right? So that's a really good position for me. I'm going to skip ahead here just a little bit. The Roaring Moon's going to faint, and now it's a 2v1, right? And very critically, I did not get burned on my Iron Hands. It actually doesn't end up mattering too much. Alberto is just going to go for a safe protect here just to see how much we do. But we can kind of skip ahead here, right? Like I survive the Giga Drain, which is pretty crucial. Like this is kind of Alberto's only option, right? Is if you Giga Drain enough to take the wild charge and you get a crit and KO my Flutter Mane. Obviously that does not happen. So I am able to take game 1. And we can skip right into game 2. I'm feeling really good at this point, right? Like it's a scary set for sure. And so we can just kind of jump right into game 2 as soon as it starts. Not much to say here, right? We're just stalling. And so let's see here. Same lead. I'm going to lead the same thing every time, as we are going to see that Klefki and Palafin. And so this is really interesting, right? Like this means you either left something behind, right? You either left behind Corviknight, which gives you access to Tailwind. You left at home your Roaring Moon, which is like your main source of damage, which I don't think you did, or Volcarona. So my thought process is you've probably left Corviknight back at home because it's completely unnecessary here. And so this is where I make the same mistake that I made game 1 of going for a fake out onto the Klefki. It's not super necessary, as we are just going to see a flip turn immediately coming out onto the Iron Hands, onto the Arcanine, if I'm not mistaken. And so my thought process right now is I want to just try and burn the what's it called, the Palafin. I know that it has a Lumberry, but the sooner I can break that item, the sooner that I can put on pressure. And so we're gonna see the Roaring Moon come out here. I go for fake out into it, right? Oh no, I go straight for the attack. So I make the adjustment and I say, hey, I don't need to fake out. I'm gonna go for a wild charge onto the Palafin, right? Like I just want to get rid of it. I want to cripple it. And so Palafin's going to get burned. It's going to heal up. We can just kind of jump through this. It's going to go for a flip turn. He's going to bring out Klefki, and Klefki's going to take a ton of damage from this wild charge, which is awesome, right? So this feels like a really good position for me, but this is a really good position for Alberto, right? Like because of the fact that Arcanine is on the field the same time as the Roaring Moon, this means that he can freely go for an Acrobatics into my Arcanine slot, and there's nothing I can really do about that, right? Because it will be at +1, and so we get really good damage onto the Klefki, and so he's going to just go for the Acrobatics. Like I said, I'm going to get punished no matter what I do. My thought process is sacrifice the Roaring Moon, which is going to give me the ability to bring back Arcanine and try and put on pressure there. But even still, I've taken enough chip damage from that Palafin where like it's not ideal for me either. And so I'm going to do exactly that. I am going to switch out, but I am going to call the fact that, what's it called? I'm going to call the fact that your Roaring Moon is going to go for the Terra Flying, which is going to be a really big call for me, right? Because I am able to wild charge and get a ton of damage off. But we're going to see like how impactful the Reflect is here as it lets you survive. So, right, the Arcanine going to switch out, going to go into that Roaring Moon. And so this is going to get the KO here. So what I could have actually done is I could have switched Iron Hands into Arcanine, right? If I switch Iron Hands into Arcanine, I have the ability, or no, if I switch Iron Hands into Roaring Moon, what I could have done instead, right, is I could have done what I did game 1 of going for a Tailwind into a Will-O-Wisp, right? I had attacked the last turn. There's nothing really stopping that. Where instead I'm really freely giving up my Roaring Moon, when in all honesty, I don't have to, right? Like I'm not getting the knockout with this wild charge. I think it would have been a lot safer just to try and put that pressure on. What's tricky about it, right, though, is like you can go for a Thunder Wave. So like it's not necessarily the end of the world. I can obviously tear it dark. But I think that might have been the much safer play here instead of saying I'm going to try and cycle and intimidate, right? Like obviously, if you had attacked, I don't think you attack into the Iron Hand slot because you can't afford to get burned. But definitely sort of in hindsight, another play that I could have made. So we're going to skip through the animation and just watch him completely decimate my Roaring Moon. There's the Reflect coming up. Let's see the Acrobatics. It's going to just completely decimate my Roaring Moon. Yeah, that's going to go down. And now a Wild Charge going to come out here, right? And good damage there. But yeah, it survives, which is pretty critical, right? Like obviously if I had gotten the knockout there, that would have been awesome, right? I can bring out Arcanine pretty freely, but I am gonna have to take a ton of damage from whatever wants to come in. So I bring out Arcanine again. Like I said, I think that the smarter play would have been to protect Arcanine, switch into the Roaring Moon there, go for a Tailwind Will-O-Wisp, even a Terra Dark potentially to stop something like that Thunder Wave. And I think that would have just put me in a way better position, right? Like it also means, yeah, I think just having access to that speed control, whereas now, right, like I'm going to have to get hit by this Roaring Moon, whereas I could have set up a scenario where I didn't need to, because right, you cannot afford to leave Arcanine alone. Because if you get that wrong, right, and I hit you with a Will-O-Wisp, it's game over. And so, yeah, we're just going to get the Intimidate off. We're going to see the Protect come out here. I think just trying to stall a potential Will-O-Wisp and setting up a Light Screen. And so I'm going to go for just that Protect on the Arcanine, trying to preserve it as much as I can. And here comes that Light Screen on the Klefki, right, setting up that endgame. A really smart call for sure, as the Wild Charge going to go into the Roaring Moon. And so now we can skip ahead to this turn. The Klefki just really going to go for Dazzling Gleam. We are going to see the Acrobatics come out into the Arcanine. Arcanine critically survives. I didn't actually think it was going to, but we are going to go down from the recoil, which means that I'm down to my final two Pokemon. I know one of them is Palafin in the back, and so, sorry. Yeah, so we are going to get the double knockout here, but we're in a really bad spot, right? Because I'm forced to bring out Flutter Mane versus this Palafin. And so at this point, Alberto, right, makes a really good call. I mean, there's no reason for him to attack with Volcarona. I'm also Choice Specs, so I can't really take the attack. I thought that I would be able to live the Wave Crash for some reason, but it turns out I can't, so I'm going to Terra Grass here. And so yeah, once he survives and KOs my Flutter Mane, right, there's nothing I can do. I have to do a Wild Charge into one of these. He survives on Palafin. It's not really critical here because, right, Palafin's not going to do too much, especially because we saw that Wild Charge is a 2-hit KO. The only thing I gain from here is seeing how much the Flamethrower does. So it's doing about 50%. And so my thought process, so now I have to make an adjustment, right? Like we are in game 3 and I have to ask myself what worked and what didn't. And what I realized is that Roaring Moon isn't really working for me. And because, right, we're playing a long game, and like Roaring Moon, it was nice game 1. It really punished me game 2. And if I'm expecting a Palafin, I think the adjustment to make, right, is Amoonguss, right? Amoonguss is awesome here, being immune to a lot of hits, being able to put on pressure for Spore. So I'm saying I'm going to go with the same lead, but I'm going to drop, what's it called? I'm going to drop the Roaring Moon for Amoonguss. I think Hands, Arcanine, and Flutter Mane can do enough damage that I don't need Roaring Moon. And so we're going to hop right in, right? Same lead here. Iron Hands there. And we're going to see Klefki Volcarona. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is awesome, right? Like this Volcarona is not going to be doing much to either of my Pokemon. I can just kind of go for Snarls. I can really do whatever I want without too much fear. And so I forget what happens turn 1 of this game, actually. This game is like obviously the big pressure match. And so we're going to see a switch out into Garchomp and a Protect, right? And so now I'm going to go for the Fake Out, worrying about the T-Wave. I'm going to go for the Snarl, saying, hey, I want to punish your Volcarona. And so, right, we're going to see a switch out from the Klefki going into this Garchomp. We are going to take a little bit of Rough Skin recoil and just a Protect there, right? A Fake Out into a Snarl. And so this is a really interesting turn. Alberto is choice locked, right? Or not choice locked. We know Alberto is choiced. And so Alberto chooses to go for a Rock Slide. This very much feels like Paraflinch as an endgame. I think it is smart, right? It's smart if you're worried about like a Roaring Moon switching in, right? Roaring Moon can take the Earthquake and then Terra Flying, and suddenly you're in this position where you can't really do anything. So I think it's a very solid mid-ground play, right? Of saying, hey, I'm not going for knockouts. I'm going for chip with the idea that chip is going to matter. And this is awesome, right? Because what it means is, so we're going to see that. I'm going to switch out into the Amoonguss here, revealing it as my adaptation, as Alberto also going to switch out, bring back out that Klefki. I think it's the idea that neither of us are really pressured by the other one. And so now you can start going for things like Thunder Waves, as I just bring out this Amoonguss. And so I'm going to see that you are locked into Rock Slide, right? Which is huge for me. And more importantly, right, I am going to fire off the Wild Charge onto this Klefki, getting a lot of damage onto it, right? Just saying, hey, if it's the Volcarona, it's the Volcarona. And so now I'm like, okay, I want to just keep trying to KO this Klefki, heal up with my Iron Hands, right? Going for not a Rage Powder, a Pollen Puff, because you don't have a ton of pressure onto me. So I'm just gonna, like I said, go for a Pollen Puff as well as go for a Wild Charge, trying to get rid of that Klefki as soon as possible so it can't Thunder Wave me. But as we're gonna see, that plan doesn't really go the way I want it to, which is fine, right? And so we're gonna skip ahead. We're gonna see the Reflect come up here, right? Just trying to take that hit a little bit better. Rock Slide going to come out here. It's going to flinch my Iron Hands, unfortunately, but I do get a Pollen Puff to heal me up. And so now I'm in a really good spot, right? Like, my Iron Hands is at full. It's not really taking damage. Like, yes, I got flinched, but like, so what? I still have my Citrus Berry, so like, so what? And so let's see the light screen come up, and then similarly, I am gonna get flinched again, but pretty critically. Yeah, so the Rock Slide going to come out. It's going to flinch my Iron Hands, trigger my Citrus Berry, and at this point, I would have KO'd the, what's it called, the Iron or the Klefki at this point, but sadly I don't. And so the Spore is awesome, right? Because now I guaranteed that you cannot, what's it called? I guaranteed that you cannot flinch me the next turn, which is huge. And so we're gonna put that to sleep. And now what I can do is I can switch out into my Flutter Mane to try and threaten the knockout onto the Garchomp, and I can use Rage Powder to prevent me from getting what's it called, Thunder Wave. So I am gonna go for, I think I go for the sleep on the Klefki this turn. I think I put it to sleep this turn. Yeah, I'm gonna Spore it. And now, right, my thought process is I can cycle out Amoonguss, get the Regenerator. I can fire a Moonblast onto the Garchomp. Worst case, you fire off a Rock Slide, you're going to be at -1. It's not the end of the world. But this is preventing, so the Spore here is to prevent you from Thunder Waving my Flutter Mane, right? Because if you Spore my Flutter Mane, I feel like this game is over. And this is sort of my way of dealing with that. And so, yeah, we're going to see the Rock Slide here. We're going to see a Thunder Wave. It's not going to matter, as I am just going to switch into Arcanine. You are going to stay asleep, and then I'm just going to fire off a big Moonblast and get the KO here. And so, right, like, now I'm feeling good, right? I got rid of Garchomp. Klefki is not really doing much. I know that there's a Volcarona, which does have a pretty decent position here, and I'm assuming the last is Roaring Moon. And so we're going to see the Volcarona here. I think Roaring Moon like had the potential to be a solid switch here, but we are going to see the Volcarona, and so now I'm feeling really good, right? My thought process is your attacks are Giga Drain and Flamethrower, so you're not really doing much to Arcanine, and so I've had people say they don't like how I play these next couple turns, but you know, I think it's fine. So we're going to see a Quiver Dance here. I'm going to switch into Iron Hands, right? I'm saying neither of your Pokemon on the field right now threaten into my Iron Hands or into my Arcanine. So I'm going to start snarling here with the idea that if you're going for Quiver Dance, I'm going to keep you grounded just to work through the screens, and like kind of, what's it called? I'm trying to make it so I'm going to burn turns of screens and also prevent you from setting up. And even if I get paralyzed, it's not necessarily the end of the world, because you're not doing a ton of damage onto either of my Pokemon. So like, it is, I think, a really good position. So we can actually just like skip through these next two turns because of the fact that you're just going to Quiver Dance here, fire off the Snarls, and so another Dazzling Gleam, right? I went for the Fake Out onto the Klefki, just trying to prevent some damage. I guess I also didn't want to risk my Iron Hands getting burned, right? Like if I go for it into the Volcarona, right, there's a chance of Flame Body. I don't want that right now. And so I'm playing this sort of slow game of I'm not letting you get any special attack boost. And so, yeah, we're going to fire off a Snarl here. And so now I think this is a turn where I say, you know what, foot on the gas. I need to get damage. I'm going to just go all out here. And so we're going to see another Quiver Dance, and just a Dazzling Gleam here. And so I'm going to go for the Wild Charge. Yeah, and I'm gonna go for the wild charge, and I get a lucky critical hit here. I don't think it mattered too much in the end. Right, like I can just keep putting on pressure. You're not doing much to either of my Pokemon. But because of that burn, right, I am going to be able to get the knockout onto um, what's it called? I'm going to be able to get the knockout onto your Volcarona, and now you're down to your last two Pokemon, right? And it is going to be that Roaring Moon with the Klefki. And at this point, right, Klefki is not doing anything, right? Because of the Snarls, Klefki's at -1 or 2, and its only attack is Dazzling Gleam, which, right, is not doing much into Amoonguss. It's not doing much into Arcanine. It's not going to be doing much into Flutter Mane. And so out comes the Roaring Moon here, and I forget what I do this turn. I mean, like, I was bummed about the crit too, but Alberto made the point. He's like, I'm going for it every turn. Like, it's bound to happen eventually. And so it happened when I needed it to happen. I don't think it mattered too much in the end, right? I could just continuously snarl, and just like go for that. In all honesty, like I could have played for timer, but whatever. We are gonna see the Roaring Moon come out here, and I forget what I do here. Yeah. Okay, I switch out. The switch out is very obvious. So Alberto says I'm gonna go for a Dragon Dance, just because of the fact that, right, like you're gonna get dropped back to neutral, so you may as well try and get the boost up. I'm gonna switch out into the Amoonguss, which is pretty big for me, right? I'm saying this is sort of my defensive switch. We are parried here, and so we are playing a little bit like dangerously, right? At any point I could get parried. Spoiler, I don't actually get parried at all. Which is a lot of bad luck, but I also got flinched twice with Iron Hands, which if I hadn't, I would have been able to KO the Klefki, and this wouldn't have been an issue, but it is what it is. We play forward. I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world if I get parried. So we are going to see the Roaring Moon go for the Terra here, get nice and bulky, and so now what are we going to see here? We're going to see the Dragon Dance, right? Kind of expected. I think I go for the close combat, just like in case. It was like a really obvious hit, which was like kind of a bad move on my part. I should have very easily like gone for Wild Charge. And so what I could have done here, right, is I do a couple things, right? I'm saying my end game is Flutter Mane, but I saw how much damage that I did to Roaring Moon, like game 1 with Iron Hands. So honestly, what I could do here is like I could protect, I could do a bunch of stuff and like use Iron Hands and sort of just like put on the gas this way. I think I put it on a little too slow, which like had the chance to throw, instead of like playing towards para turns. I could have, or like playing around para. I should have just started being really aggressive. But it's fine. I think it works out. Yeah, and so we are gonna take a little bit of damage. We are burned, so it's like not the best plan, but like I could have gotten some more damage. We're seeing the Reflect come up, so now I'm saying, hey, you're going to go for a Reflect here. I'm going to Terra defensively to take this hit, and also bring out my Arcanine to try and put on some pressure. And so we are going to see, what's it called? The Acrobatics going into the Amoonguss, followed by just, right, the Reflect coming out here. I'm going to switch out into the Arcanine, get the Intimidate off onto both of these things. And combined with the defensive Terra, right, like this lets me live, and more importantly, this lets me put the Roaring Moon to sleep, which gives me the ability to bring out my Flutter Mane pretty easily. And so that is a lot of damage. And so the Spore is going to come out here. And so this is a turn that other people didn't like as well. They don't like the fact that I, what's it called? Go for Protect here. They think I should have just gone for a Spore onto the Klefki, which I think is fine, right? They're going to go for that. I'm going to switch out into my Flutter Mane, right? Saying, hey, I'm going to put on the gas. I just don't want to take extra damage on my Amoonguss. I could have played this a lot more defensively too in the end game, right? I could have double switched out from Amoonguss into Iron Hands, switch back into Arcanine, and try to play that slower end game, and then like go for the fake out as I switch back into like Arcanine, like into Flutter Mane, and like do all these other things. But we are going to see the Amoonguss, right, just going for the Protect here. What I want to do is I want to make sure Amoonguss is healthy enough to take hits. So I don't want it taking unnecessary Dazzling Gleams, right? The light screen, I think, was kind of obvious here. But like I said, I don't want Amoonguss taking unnecessary damage, because it might have to take and acrobatics from this Roaring Moon. And so they're going to set up the light screen totally fine here. Now I'm saying, hey, I'm going to go for redirection to stop that incoming T-wave, and I'm just going to go straight for damage, right? So we're going to see the acrobatics go out into the Flutter Mane. It's not really going to matter. You're going to stay asleep this turn, but we do get, what's it called, that redirection with the Rage Powder, no para here. And so that's going to let me fire off a big Moonblast onto this Roaring Moon, just trying to say, hey, I'm going to chip it. And so, like, this could have made things go a little bit out of favor, but I think it works out here. I also do still have the ability to Intimidate Cycle, right? Like, that's something I could have done. I can honestly, like, pivot between the three and then make it a very much game of, like, crits, but you're, like, so low at this point, it's totally fine. We're going to see at this point, just going for the Dazzling Gleam, recognizing I'm probably not going to let you para my Flutter Mane. I'm going to keep going for that redirection. It's probably safer just to get a little bit of extra damage here. And so I get a little bit lucky. Once again, like I said, I don't get parried. I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world if I do, right? I still have all of my Pokemon in the back. And even though Iron Hands is burned, right? Like, it has access to Fake Out. It has the ability to go for Wild Charge. I can heal it up with Amoonguss, right? Like, I can start cycling out Intimidates, getting Regenerator, going for stuff that way. So I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world here. As we see, yep, the Rage Powder just going for, what's it called? A Dazzling Gleam. And so we can skip here. And so now you're going to go for the Rage Powder. I get it. And so I just want to, go back a turn. Dazzling Gleam. I just want to make sure that he is targeting down the Flutter Mane. Yeah. And so I do get lucky. I think this is like the most important turn. It's the turn I spored, and this turn here that I'm able to kind of put on that Moonblast. And so with the Moonblast finishing off that Roaring Moon, there's really nothing that can happen here, right? I can just bring out my Arcanine, and then right, it's game over from here. And so people were like, oh, you should have like been a little bit more careful and stuff like that. But like, I look at how much HP my Arcanine has. We saw that it can live the hit. And so I think it would have worked out totally fine. But yeah, and so at this point, Alberto is going to run. Overall, I think I played well. Like I said, I did make some mistakes, but was able to adjust from that. I think I was always really focused on my end game. This was definitely such an incredible set. It was so much fun to play. Huge shout out to Alberto. Like, this is honestly like my highlight of the weekend, right? Like, being on stream is super rare. Winning on stream is even rarer. And so, yeah, I hope people found this insightful. I'm really hoping to try and pick up some steam again and get back into things. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But that's all I got. Until next time, I hope all of you are wonderful, and I'll see you then.